GameSir is such a bonkers company, and to think their CEO is not even 20 years old. This controller I did not expect to like, but once again, they caught me off guard. Let's get it. It's really good. Alright, hi, I'm Clef and you're watching gametechtalk. And let's talk about this product. In the box you'll find this nice little pouch where it says Aileron in the front, X4 Aileron really. Inside you'll find, of course, the two attachment that serves as a controller. You'll also have replacement sticks. You have a swappable replacement D-pad if you prefer. I like the fact that they're both extremely different, and I could see that being swapped based off of the game that I play. You have two back buttons, one on each side, that are mappable. Let's talk about the face buttons, which are also tactile, so clicky, right? An awesome feature that I don't think we've seen before. Honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that I read the box, I wouldn't have known that was a feature even. But there's a little notch you can sort of insert your nail, and you can push the button out and you can swap them like that. And each buttons are magnetized, so if you want to swap your B and A to have a Nintendo layout, you can do that. You have RGB accents, as you can see around the rings, which looks pretty phenomenal, and you can tweak it. You do have a few options if you want, for example, breathing, static. Now, maybe you've seen another controller that is very similar to that, which is the Turtle Beach Atom, which I'm supposed to review on this channel. I have it here, I just haven't had the time to do it, but it'll happen at some point. It is a connector that intertwines into each other, so that's how you charge it, because you have those little prongs at the bottom that will, when they're connected, make it charge both the left and the right side simultaneously. So you only have one USB-C to charge the left side, and then when intertwined you can charge the right side as well. And when charging, you have this nice ring that comes up to let you know that it is charging. One of the purpose of this controller is to be able to use it with just one side, and this is definitely something that we can do and that we'll test later in this video. If you just want to clip one end and you want to use your touchscreen to control your games such as PUBG, that would be the way that you do it. I didn't realize that GameSir would go as deep as putting a feature in those clips, and personally, I think it's so clever. Whenever the clips are closed, your controller is powered off. Whenever you take off your phone, there's no chance of you wasting your battery because it is working by antenna, right? There is no cables whatsoever that is plugged in. There's no USB-C or any other connector for that matter. It's all Bluetooth. And the moment you insert your phone inside, the clip goes up and the power goes on. It's a nice little touch that I did not expect. At the front, you do have the M button, which is essentially what you're going to use to do some customization on the controller. The software is going to pair very nicely to do that, but there are some tweaking that you can do on the controller. So you have the hair trigger, you have controlling your RGB, you can control the volume using the M button, which is a great shortcut. You can swap your face buttons. So we talked about the magnets a moment ago. Now, swapping them will not swap their values, right? If you want to swap the value, then you have to do that in software or on the shortcut using the M button. And last but not least, you have calibrating your sticks, right? So let's dive into games. Using one hand, it works really well because there's something very specific to this controller. If you're familiar with mapping at all, some of the things I will say you might be familiar with. Usually you have, let's say, 3 types of inputs on most phones. Well, specifically Android, because this controller only works for Android, by the way. You have, of course, using your touchscreen. You have using a controller when a game supports it, but they're 2 different layers, right? So touchscreen, let's call it G-Touch, and controller being just HID mode. Now, what GameSir offers through their software is something they called V-Touch. And what V-Touch is, it merges the 2 layers together. And this is going to be extremely important for your one-handed operation. Arguably, using your thumb on your screen is going to give you more precision than using a right stick. It's just overall more intuitive in terms of controlling your camera than a stick is in most case scenarios. And then on top of that, you have to keep in mind that your controller is using Bluetooth. So touchscreen with, you know, some of the phones nowadays that have 960 hertz touch responsiveness, you definitely want that over Bluetooth. Now, the problem is usually most games will detect that you're using both layers, that you're using both a controller and your touchscreen at the same time. That can get you banned, that can get you kicked out of a game, that can get you put in a cheater bracket, and you don't realize that it is the case, but you're going to be playing with people doing the exact same thing. It is frowned upon because of V-Touch, and the fact that it merges both inputs into one layer gives you the ability to leverage both a controller and the touchscreen without flagging the game that you're playing that this is what's happening. As you can see here in the footage, playing PUBG felt phenomenal. Now, something I want to show you guys, and another thing that I find is clever, is if I take the right side, the right controller, and I add it to my device, just immediately you can see that the touchscreen overlay has appeared for the right side as well. Now, because again, we're using V-Touch, you can even use both controllers and still use the touchscreen. And because the controllers themselves are quite slim, I was surprised at how good it worked. And I just love the seamlessness aspect of it. That is when we're talking specifically about games like PUBG or Call of Duty Mobile or any kind of shooter type of game where you may want to, or maybe MOBAs. MOBAs is probably another type of game where you would want to have just the left side. But if you take both sides together, I mean, it is, for all intents and purposes, a controller. So if you want to play your emulators, if you want to play games that have native support for controller, you can do that as well. It's an extremely seamless experience. It flows nicely, right? Because whenever you want to activate V-Touch, you go through the software of GameSir. Let's talk about compatibility. One thing that may be unfortunate to some is those little clips, they don't go super high. Of course, tablet, you can just forget it. It's just not an option. Even a solution like, for example, your Galaxy Fold is not going to work with this. So it's really for standard type size phones, but as far as standard goes, just about anything is compatible. Even a larger sized device like the Razer Edge works. It works really nicely with the Razer Edge. I also extremely love the feel of it with the Red Magic 8 Pro. Unfortunately, like we mentioned, the iPhone is not compatible, so this is really exclusively for Android, and it has to be Android 10 and up. So if you have an older device that has not received a firmware upgrade to Android 10 or more, it's not going to work. At least the V-Touch is not going to work. Probably the controller portion, like regular controller, would work, but the V-Touch will not. Best to assume that if you have Android 9 and lower, probably it's not the controller for you. So let's talk a little bit about the software. It's pretty good. Now, I don't want us necessarily to go over absolutely every single feature in there. If you're the kind of person that doesn't necessarily remember the shortcuts, much like I am, I like to use the software. So in there, you can tweak your RGB, dead zone for your sticks. Actually, there's a feature that is really, really cool. Say you're playing Mario 64. Right? And the analog stick, the more you push it, the faster Mario goes, right? Well, with the dead zone, if you push it at, say, 50% of your radius, when you start physically hitting that breaking point, Mario is still going to walk slowly, but he will accelerate faster as you go to the end of your dead zone. What the anti-dead zone band does is, even when you push your stick just a little, rather than having Mario like slow walk, he would straight up be at 50% of his maximum speed. If, for example, you're playing an FPS and you're the kind of person that you don't walk slow, you run all the time, well, you can basically make it so that the moment you touch your screen, your stick just a little bit, you will immediately be at running value. I would potentially be careful with that feature because some games will actually take your readings and they will analyze to see if they see discrepancies. Because it's a feature, at least, that I have never seen before, I don't know if the behavior would be captured by some games, but I would be careful with that. I probably... Put it this way, I would not use that in a competitive setting. I feel like that could put you under a spotlight that you don't want to be in. Other than that, you have a lot of cool stuff like testing your joysticks, testing your buttons, swapping your values, as we mentioned, swapping your left and right stick. If you want to do that, you could. So if you're left-handed and you'd rather use the right side and aim with the left, You can do that, so that's pretty cool. You can map your paddles, you can address your RGBs, you can, yeah, there's a bunch of things that you can do in the software that are pretty nice. It's obvious that the software of GameSir, they've been working on it because it got a lot better from, you know, what it was, I want to say, maybe a year and a half ago. They definitely improved. It's a very, very smooth experience now. Now, of course, this is not the only option from GameSirs, and potentially not the option you want to go for. You also have the GameSir Galileo G8, which will give you a living room kind of controller. You have the X2S, which is phenomenal for the folding phones. And then, of course, the X2 is actually a whole lineup of a lot of controllers. And then you also have the X3 if cooling your device is something that you're really concerned with. I'm really surprised with the X4. I wasn't a fan of the clipping mechanism that I've experienced elsewhere, and when looking at this controller, at least I thought it was going to be about the same, but the reality is it feels quite better, especially when it comes to the ergonomics and the quality. And when I went to look at the price, quite frankly I was a little surprised. I thought it was going to be a little less expensive just because GameSir has this history of having amazing value with their products. But when seeing what that controller can do, I do think it's a fair price, if not cheap. We're talking about 99, so we're talking about $100 US. Seeing the quality that this controller has, I get it. I really get it. Like, for me, for example, the Galileo G8 is the controller that I will favor because it does things that other controllers don't by being a moddable and having the possibility to stretch for a tablet. But this one, if you are in any capacity, Call of Duty or a PUBG or a MOBA player, or if you just want a nice ergonomic controller, which we'll talk about ergonomics in a second, but yeah, if that appeals to you and you like the ability to be able to do the left side only or the right side only or both, I have never seen a controller this good in that kind of category. But to me, I thought that was not going to be enough for me to make me like this one. But as it turns out, despite the fact that it is in what I consider to be the worst category of controllers, it is so good, so comfortable, that I would favor this over a lot of other products. Unfortunately, this doesn't work with the fold. Compared to the X2S in comparison, or the X2 Pro, like, there's never a situation where this is an option that I would choose the other ones over this. Impossible. Because that one is so much more comfortable. Now, talking about the ergonomics, I love the feel. As always, GameSir has delivered quality products, so the plastic feels great. Now, the grips in the back of the controllers is what I'm most surprised about. It's something I haven't really seen, and it's a little hard to explain, but basically those grips, you know, usually you have like your pinky and your index fingers kind of holding onto the grip of a living room type of controller, whereas mobile controllers are often smaller and you sort of have to, I don't know, hold them different, almost like this. Now, the way that these grips kind of sits on your fingers is as if you can just still use your pinky and your index, but rest them as a claw kind of style onto the controllers. And I haven't seen a shape like this one, but it feels really, really good. And also the fact that it is dotted, it gives you like that nice hold on the controller. I really think they nailed the ergonomics. And again, that is something I did not expect to like, because other controllers that I've experienced in that kind of style did not give me anywhere near as good a feel in terms of the sensory experience and in terms of the ergonomics. So this is something that they nailed. I would say this is easily more comfortable than a Backbone, more comfortable than the Kishi V1 and V2. Actually, you know what? The Kishi V1, the grip is kind of similar, but this one, they nailed it. Like, they made it way, way, way better. But I guess if you have that as a reference, the Kishi V1, it feels similar, but way, way, way better. Other than the like Kishi Ultra or the GameSir Galileo G8, this is now in third position in terms of ergonomics. And that's saying a lot, because there are a lot of comfortable controllers in different styles, mind you. You know, like the Backbone is more like a smaller profile kind of thing. So there are a lot of options on the market. But yeah, definitely I would put this one third in terms of ergonomics. They really did a great job. So who's this for? We kind of mentioned it throughout the video, but it's pretty obvious at this point. This is really designed more for shooters and mobile players. Again, anybody can make use of it. It also, I would urge you to consider based off of the device that you have as well. You know, we pretty much talked about it. If you have a folding phone, I mean, you could, when your fold is closed, kind of make it work, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. You could if you wanted. I just feel like it's really not designed for foldable phones at all. But for anything that is, you know, the regular rectangle format, and even something that is wider like a Razer Edge, works just great. In fact, I do find that I like the Razer Edge a little bit better in this than the Red Magic 8 Pro. Also, it seems to play nicely, at least it is the case with my Red Magic 8 Pro. It does play nicely with thin cases, so that's something also to keep in mind. You won't have the hassle of trying to fit a USB-C connector into your phone because it uses Bluetooth. All you need really is to have a grip. Would I recommend? Absolutely. Like if anything that I said in this video spoke to you in any kind of way, like if you're a shooter kind of guy, if you're a mobile kind of person, if that relates to the way that you experience mobile gaming and you want something that is extremely versatile and can transform based off of what you want to do, there is no better option. GameSir, once again, that company is on a roll. I don't understand what they're doing. They're so, like, they understand gamers way more than so many companies out there. Like, they keep pumping out products that I'm like, okay, it's better than anything I've seen before. And yeah, they nailed it with this one. They definitely nailed it with this one. Now, on a completely different note, they hinted in their Discord that they are working. I mean, it's a very small hint, that they're working on an iPad Pro controller. So I think they have a proper response to Absolute announcing a controller and to Razer bringing the Kishi Ultra to market. I'm super excited to see what GameSir will do, because I'll be honest, GameSir has become one of the companies I trust the most into giving me products that are groundbreaking, that pushes the envelope. It makes me experience my games, no matter the platform, in the best possible ways. And so that is it, guys. Let me know how you felt about this video. As always, thank you for watching, and if you have any inputs, any comments, please let me know in the comment box. Will you be picking it up? Are you considering it at all? Does that form factor speak to you in any kind of way? Let me know. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.